Welcome to my mobile app application development class, where in these lessons I'm going to be teaching you guys how you can be able to design a complete data driven native mobile application from the start to the finish, right? So in this lesson one, we're going to be looking at introduction to mobile application development, right? So, like I said in my some of my previous videos, right now you can see the world is actually evolving, and you don't actually need to be 50% or 60%, 70% and good to actually be a full mobile application developer, a full stack mobile application developer, because with the aid of these transformer models now, like the generative pre-trained transformer model and the robots optimized bidirectional encoder from transformer, the llama, and so many of them that we have now, you can be able to build the application so easily. All you just need to have is to know how to how to couple modules together to form a complete system. And that's one of the core scope I'm going to be teaching you guys here. Before we move to that particular aspect, so let's just get the fundamental of the introduction to mobile application development. Now, mobile application development is all about the process of creating software applications that runs on mobile device, right? Like our smartphones, our tablets, our smartwatches, even, right? So that is what mobile application development is all about. Now, mobile application has been classified into two phases, which are the native and the hybrid mobile application development. Now, basically, currently now, 2025, we currently have two popular OS for our mobile application, which are the iOS and also the Android, right, OS. So you can see now that now for the native applications, right, you can see that it's built specifically for one platform using platform specific languages. So whether you are using different types of framework to build native application, at the end it still falls back to either for Android application, it will still fall back to either using the Android or any external online devices. But if you're running the application on your system, right, it requires an Android Studio to be able to compile and build the APK, right, successfully, right, which is the Android application successfully. Now, if you're running the native application on the iOS um, phone, right? So you actually need Xcode, right? You actually need Xcode, right? So now you can see, or there are other external online tools you can use, which I will still introduce it to you guys as we move on the lecture, right? But even if there are external tools, you know that this Apple company, you need to still have a license, right, to be able to build your app, which I think is about $99. Right, it's about $99, so they will give you a license to be able to do that, right? Then for the Android, you don't actually need that to build an APK app using Flutter, which I'm going to introduce you guys here. But when you want to upload it to the Google Play Store, definitely you will pay, right? So I'm going to show you guys how all these things works here in this video. So now let's fall back to our native application. So native application, which is built specifically for one platform using the platform specific language. Like I said, we have the Android Studio for Android and we have the Xcode for the iOS applications, right? So now basically now currently frameworks, we have frameworks which enables which enables us to build mobile application easily. Alright, now I'm going to mention the popular frameworks for this native and also popular frameworks for hybrid apps. So you can see the hybrid apps are built with web technologies like the Hypertext Markup Language, the Cascading Style Sheet, and the JavaScript, and run inside a native shell, right? But as a user, you will not actually notice which one is native, purely native, and which one is hybrid, right? But I'm going to be exposed to some of the frameworks, some of the popular ones. There are so many, but we won't actually mention them. But we'll mention the popular ones, which are trending, the popular frameworks which are trending, which many users are actually using, and many students are learning, and many schools are using. So, for my experience, for my practical experience designing a mobile application, right? The first I would prefer, let me create a new slide. Mobile frameworks. Framework. Let me just use frameworks for mobile app development. So, for my practical experience, the first is Flutter. Now, Flutter has a beautiful, has a very easy interface, which in the core scope of this our lecture will be using Flutter, right? And my system currently, the system I'm using currently now is we run some Windows OS, so I'm using Windows. I'll be using Flutter. So my second video, which is the module part of module one, which is installation, I'm going to show you guys how to install Flutter on Windows OS. So this video, the scope of this video basically is for only for Windows users, right? It can also work for the iOS, right? But I will focus more on using Windows and installing Flutter on Windows because that's what we'll be using throughout this lecture, right? So the first is Flutter. Now, Flutter makes use of the Dart programming language, which is a fully object-oriented programming language, right? So Flutter actually is a framework that is very easy to use. Very, you can see. Let me show you an example here. Now, okay, let me just show you one of the Flutter apps here. Open folder, my mobile app. Okay, so this is one of the application build with Flutter, although I've built more of my application using other frameworks which I've mentioned here in this class. So now this is one of the application build with Flutter, which I will explain all these in my next video, but not here. So you can see how easy it is, right? So let me change this, which is Launcher AI. Okay. Now you can see very easy to run, very easy to build. Now this is actually way to build the APK, right? So when you do this, it just runs the APK of this entire system. Now if I want to run this, let me just run it so you see how it works before I move forward. Okay, it's detecting my phone, so let me move my phone. And yeah, I want to run it on browser, right? So you can if you go to this because I've already built the application, right? So if you go to where is it build, which is app, you see output, then you see the Flutter APK. Now this is the APK which I installed on my phone to test the app, right? So you can see everything is easier, right? And it has a beautiful UI, very easy to use, very easy to learn, which that's why I choose this as my scope of this class, which will learn this from the fundamental down to the professional level, right? Okay, so as it runs, right, it's running. So let's just go back to our lecture. So Flutter is one of the number one. So Flutter is actually cross-platform. You write once, you can see from the folder here. You can see from the folder here, it has for Android and also has for iOS. But I can't actually compare iOS here because I'm using Windows. So I need a Mac OS, right? So I can use Xcode to compile for the Mac or use an external tool, right? Use an external tool. But like I've already mentioned, the constraints, the limitation of this, right? Even if I'm using an external tool, I still need to pay for that license to be able to build an iOS app, right? So okay, you can see how it's coming up, right? So you can see that the Flutter is actually cross-platform. It runs on iOS and Android, right? So you can also test it on your web, but it also runs on web. You can see how I'm testing this on my web right now, right? So you can see how I'm testing this on the web, and you can see the app here. It comes up. Although I click on refresh, right? So it's coming up. So once it comes up, we'll come back to this. So you know why it's slow. So the second on my list, right? Flutter is one of the best, right? Like I explained, it's cross platform. You can you write one code once and you compile for almost all the platforms and also including web. Then you can and these once you're able to understand this, learn very well, right? You have like 70% chance of having a job as a mobile application developer in so many companies. Many companies actually using Flutter. Then the second on my list, from my experience, is React Native, right? So React Native is very good. It has beautiful UI, right? It's mainly for JavaScript developers, right? So I love this, but from my experience, I prefer this more, right, than this. So the third on my list, which is from Microsoft, is Xamarin. So Xamarin makes use of the C sharp. You can see Xamarin makes use of C sharp. You can see all these ones are all cross-platform. You write once and you can compile to all, right? So, but these are built, you used to build pure native mobile applications, right? So these are beautiful. They are beautiful to use. So if you're a Microsoft user, you can stick to Xamarin, right? So it's actually very good and very very rich. So my the fourth on my list is Ionic, right? So Ionic is mainly for the um Ionic framework is for the hybrid mobile application, right? It makes use of the web technologies to build a mobile app, right? To actually a hybrid mobile application. So we have other ones like the Titanium, which is for hybrid. We have Cordova, something else. Cordova. We have Cordova and so many of them, like Phone Gap and so many of them, right? So these are the top ones on my list right now. So let me remove this. Right, these are the top ones on my list, which is the Flutter, the React Native, the Xamarin, the Ionic, and the Titanium. Right. So, like I said, in this class, we'll be using Flutter all through the class from the fundamental down to the expert level. So I'm going to be teaching you this. Right, to design an application like this, I think with design application like this, you can see this is an application which I've designed for. You can see how it works, right? So you can log in if we are on the internet, because you use the internet, which the API is actually hosted. It's already hosted. So let me just log in as a one-time user. Let's see. Okay. So this app currently is already on my phone, right? I tested it on my phone. You can see it's actually working. So you can see. So this is what I'm going to teach you guys how this works, right? So this is an infinite pagination, right? You can see there's an infinite pagination. So as you scroll up like this, the image, although the network is not as strong, but as you scroll up, the images you can see as you scroll up, the cross will be coming up as you scroll up. Just this is called infinite pagination, right? So if you check this one here, this is called, okay, it's not coming up because of network. Let's see. Okay, is the network off? Okay, so this is actually the report, which the network is very poor. So this is what basically we'll be doing in this class, right? Something like this. We're going to do a simple application like this, right? In this class. So I have this application installed on my phone, well tested, right? And everything is working well. I'm going to teach you guys how we can able to build this from start to finish. So in next video, we're going to be looking at the installation of Flutter and also the Android Studio on our Windows OS. So thank you and God bless you.